Okie doke. So, welcome back, in a manner of speaking.
Back's a strong word, my guy.
Yeah. Maybe go over to my channel. Are any of you in the Various Game Studios
No.
Discord channel?
No.
No.
That's where most of my fan base goes nowadays. And I don't really, while I'm in this call, I don't really have access to it. Anyway, we're back. We're on another channel because my internet went down because of storms in our area, and we are speaking to William SRD, and this will be part 2, and then eventually I will cobble together a VOD that will kind of sort of make sense. So, continuing where we left off.
Oh, it's good that he's being good spirited about this. Anyway, so I suppose moving forward, so we've touched upon Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer in part 1, let's call it. Now I'm wondering about those RPGs.
Yeah.
What do you cover? What do you intend to cover in terms of tabletop role-playing games that aren't those properties?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I've got upcoming. In terms of stuff that I've already done, it hasn't been much outside of those two properties. I did make just a little feeler video to see like how broad of a topic I could get away with. So I made a video about the old like Lego RTS from the 90s called Rock Raiders, because that thing was my childhood. And unfortunately, the YouTube algorithm tells me that I can't get away with making Lego videos, so there won't be any more of those. But in terms of stuff that's coming, probably this Halloween, I want to cover all of the World of Darkness games that are not Vampire the Masquerade. Which, for those unfamiliar with it, Vampire the Masquerade is not just a popular video game, semi-popular, cult classic kind of deal. It is also a tabletop system, and it has a whole bunch of peer systems.
All in the format of unusual life form that you'll be playing as one of the situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Werewolf is probably the best known because they fight with the vampires all the time in Vampire, so there's one where you can play as those.
Yep.
But you also got your wizards, your fairies, your Frankensteins, all kinds of things. Ghosts.
You've got Hunter and shit. Yeah, so there's a pair of like old a trio of old Hunter Game Boy, or not Game Boy, GameCube games.
Yeah, Hunter the Reckoning.
I briefly mentioned it, and suddenly my audience went nuts, really wanting those ones. So I'll probably be covering them reasonably soon.
Yeah,
in terms of smaller ones,
Wraith got a VR game recently.
Yes, it did. Yeah, and Werewolf also got, I think, just kind of a sort of adventure hack and slash game. I haven't looked into it yet, but I'd like to cover that one this October as well. So that's the big one. There's also Shadowrun, very popular tabletop system as well. And there were a bunch of Shadowrun games, especially old like classic NES ones.
Super NES and Genesis.
They've got some more modern stuff. Yeah. And there's some games that, like, as they get older, I'd like to make retrospectives that are more tied to the tabletop than other reviews. For example, I mean, everybody forgets that Cyberpunk, that's a tabletop video game.
It is.
So in a couple years, when the coverage is a little less crowded, I will make a little retrospective about how it interacted with the tabletop stuff.
I mean, if you want super obscure, there is a N-Gage game that is based off of the tabletop game Riffs.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I'll write that one down.
Sorry, we're getting some interference.
Yeah, it's from Mac.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
probably his phone is listening super hard since he's not saying anything.
Yeah, the echo is very intense now.
I'm like, anyway, as I was trying to say, if you want to go,
Yeah.
if you want to go super obscure, there is an N-Gage game based off of riffs.
Huh. I'll give that
Which
a
is
look.
kind of shocking
Yeah,
that
I'm always
the
into
N-Gage
the
has
really
power to
obscure stuff.
Yeah.
kind of shocking that the N-Gage has power to run a game based on Rift, since I believe Rifts is based on GURPS, which is notably very dense.
It's also
I love me some GURPS, but I may be the only one.
Yeah, it's also Palladium has been notoriously gatekeepy about having riffs as an actual video game, and it's like the one time they did it for the N-Gage.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of sentimental towards that because I played riffs and riffs adjacent RPGs, Palladium stuff in high school. So, like I had a Zentradi warrior in riffs. It was kind of one of the big appeals of riffs. You could have a Zentradi fight the Shredder. I'm not joking about this, by the way.
I mean, it's the entire point of, like I said, it's based on GURPS, and GURPS was the point. The whole point was that you could make anything eventually.
It's not just GURPS, but riffs is based off of having literal portals open to different worlds. It's like Planescape on steroids.
They can't actually, obviously,
like
publish stuff with a lot of that stuff specifically, but...
Well, yes, they did, because they had like Robotech the RPG, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the RPG, and they were all.
Oh, right, they did a lot of licensed stuff, and then you could just use them together.
Yeah, I'm like, that happened in our campaigns. So, anyway, but I suppose getting back on track with the D&D stuff. Are there any games that that aren't old or anything that you wouldn't cover?
Any games that I wouldn't cover that are tabletop games? There's some stuff that I think don't necessarily lend themselves to my style of reviews. I invited my whole audience to play a few of the tabletop MMOs with me, and we were going to review them, but as I got further into it, I just kind of realized that my style of review is very much like I complete the game and then I'll tell you all about the game. And that format does not work for an MMO. And at what point do you stop playing it and you go, yes, I can review it now? So I figure I will just leave MMOs specifically to the MMO reviewers. Other than that, there's a lot of games that are probably just too small, really, to be turned into a video. Especially a lot of like text-based stuff. We talked before about how my cutoff for earliest I'm going to cover for D&D stuff is probably the Gold Box games because they've got graphics.
Yes, they do. All right.
Yeah.
As does the Silver Box games.
Yes. Love me. Well, haven't played the Silver Box games yet, but I love them in concept.
Execution was rough.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I suffer through some of these games and I hate my life while I'm playing them, and then, a couple days after the video is out, I'm like, man, that my life is improved having experienced that. So, if the Silver Box games are bad, that's fine, so long as they're weird and interesting.
I mean, there's a lot of weird and interesting Dungeons and Dragons games that are obscure.
Absolutely.
And the especially obscure ones are the ones that are based off of the not Forgotten Realms module, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. It's all, especially most of the really weird ones came out pre 1998. There's like a terrible, janky Ravenloft fighting game.
Right.
There's there's basically a Crusader Kings game that's D&D that came out in 96, I believe. They had some really weird shit going on in the '90s, and I just have so much fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, some of that is just second edition in general.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how familiar you are with like second edition and just how splintered it got.
yeah. I know they published like a million things, but in terms of like if I was playing second edition, I think the first official edition I played was 3.5. I was just playing like um like made up homebrew rules up until then.
hmm
Right.
Yeah,
You know, the
second
correct
edition.
way.
Second edition was the one where they invented most of the weird fork settings.
Yeah, exactly.
That all had stuff that was not intended to be used together, but if your DM didn't say no, then
Yeah, then your DM's just like, "Hey, this one's Planescape, so now you can use everything."
Yeah.
that wasn't even the thing. They had two different meta. All of the settings are combined here settings.
Yeah.
They had Planescape and they had Spelljammer, and they weren't entirely compatible.
Yeah.
That Spelljammer, like that was the really weird setting. Like because okay, for those who don't know Spelljammer, that's basically D&D but by way of Buck Rogers.
Some people know Spelljammer now because they redid it for 5th edition with notoriously terrible spaceship combat, I believe, is the problem that people had with it.
Yeah, it was like a
Um,
tiny little like half a page table.
But yes, in Planescape, all of the different planes exist and are accessible, including multiple different material planes, and you travel between them by using plane shift spells and teleportation like a civilized wizard. In Spelljammer, you build a boat. And then stick a magical artifact on for a steering wheel, and then if a spell user uses that, you can sail between worlds and deal with giant space hammers and hippopotamus people, militaristic hippopotamus people with guns and stuff like that.
D&D is weird, and that's what makes it great. People don't understand this.
Yeah, they actually made a Spelljammer video game, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, they did, and it used like live action characters. Like they got people up in like really shitty cosplay and took pictures of them, and that was the graphics.
Yeah. And also the thing I remember about Spelljammer is beholders.
Yes.
Really obsessed with beholders for some reason. Like
Beholders are an interesting antagonistic force.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately it all comes down to the fact that they're all incredibly racist assholes, to the point where they're even racist against other beholders.
I mean, yeah.
Just iDudes doing iDude stuff.
Mm. And oppressing the what was it, gas spores, or like the beholders that aren't beholders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were a couple of mock beholders. The first one was literally a Gary Gygax haha fuck you trap.
Yeah, that's
where it's a thing that it looks like a beholder, but it has like it's really easy to hit, and if you hit it and it dies, it explodes in like poison gas and spores and shit.
That is the thing I'm talking about. And then there's the other side of the equation, the eye tyrant.
I think that's actually one of the generic terms they use for beholder now, but yeah.
Well, I mean, back in the older editions, like I think first or second, I don't remember which, but like an eye tyrant was like a specific type of beholder. Remember, these things do change over time. Like, and like there's a game based off of Al Qadim. All things.
In which Dungeons and Dragons attempts to address Arabian Nights tropes, and it goes about as well as you'd expect for the 80s, 70s?
90s.
90s? Okay.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
About the time, it was about the time when the animated Aladdin movie came out, if I'm remembering correctly. Like, just yeah. I mean, that was kind of the appeal / the downfall of second edition. Just all of these different wacky settings that were getting incompatible with each other. This is why third edition kind of had to happen, because you mentioned Spelljammer and Planescape being kind of incompatible with each other. It wasn't an uncommon occurrence. All these different modules.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
getting confusing because there were all these little fiddly details, like the setting of Dark Sun. It was like you couldn't spell jam there, but you could plane shift out of there, but it was hard and you had to go through gray soup to get out. The lore just got really
because
like,
magic is interdicted in Dark Sun because it's all based on fucking evil sorcerer kings who are trying to become dragons.
yeah, and it's quite an interesting setting because it's got a very environmental message where like magic works like industry in that you get a lot of good shit from it, but it destroys the planet as you use it. So naturally, Dark Sun is a completely destroyed planet because nobody could stop pushing the "let's do magic" button.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or wood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, even Dragonlance, which is one of the major ones, for a huge chunk of its timeline, had no divine magic.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dragonlance is always a weird one.
Yeah, I've always had several issues with Dragonlance. Like, I never liked the robe system.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not intended to be for everything, but when they were originally making it, they wanted to do some things differently.
Yeah, I know. It's just the things they did differently, I didn't like.
That's fair.
Okay.
So yeah, in third edition, they tried to make everything work together until they had a contest to make a new setting and made Eberron, which fucked everything up again.
Anyway, Mac, you were saying?
Just so you know, we are streaming again on the Retro Gaming Emporium channel. So hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody from the Etherverse or something. But I'm
also, for what it's worth, I tracked down Varius's channel and posted about it in the thing.
Oh, okay. I did too when my internet came back. But yeah.
Right.
All right. So we're here.
We're probably still going to keep this broadcast on Fragments, just to keep it whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you guys give me the VOD later, and I'll try to splice it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Betty, don't forget that.
Noted.
Anyway, so how do you approach a Dungeons and Dragons game or a Warhammer 40K game in terms of like quality?
In terms of quality, I try to do my best to find a balance between how much fun I'm actually having with it versus comparing it directly to its peers. Because sometimes it's just, it's just not going to hold up. Like the Dark Sun games are what I'm working on right now. And they're not a lot of fun to get through. They're very much like modern isometric RPGs, except minus 25 years of quality of life improvements. So it kind of sucks. But compared to a trial of its peers, it stacks up okay. So
yeah, and also you are also playing in a setting where part of the selling point of the setting is that it sucks to be there.
Yes, that is true. That is absolutely true. So I do a lot of comparing when I'm doing it, but I don't let that be the only thing, because if something's just absolutely painful to get through, I'm gonna talk about it.
Yeah. On the, I suppose, other side of the equation, do you have any intent of tackling like the sacred cows of D&D video games? Your Baldur's Gates, your
Oh, of course,
Planescape
yeah.
tournaments.
Yeah, that's always been something that I'm a little unsure of because I kind of have been getting away so far with talking about really obscure stuff, and the appeal of my channel thus far has been hearing about games you never imagined existed, really. And there's a few people in my audience, a fair number of people really, who have played these old games, but almost every single one of my uploads is a bunch of D&D fans in the comments going like, "They made what fucking game?" So I feel like that's more my appeal, and my general style of covering a game is it's a very hybrid format where it's a little bit of let's play because I kind of summarize the game as though I'm playing it on the go, even though it's actually scripted. I do, I cover all the features in the game. I do a little bit of like retrospective reviewing and telling you how we got the game. So I try and cover a little bit of everything in my content without going too deep into any one like style of content. And when we're talking about games that are so well known, like Baldur's Gate, I'm a little intimidated to get into that because I just feel like if I stuck to my normal format in any way, I would I would really just only scratch the surface of everything and kind of just be providing content that's stale, really, that people have already covered. So I would like to cover stuff like Planescape Torment and stuff, and Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights and all those, the things that are really well known, but I'm just not 100% sure I have anything to offer there. I don't know. It's a thing I flip flop on whether or not I'm going to do pretty much every week.
Understandable because, as mentioned, these are kind of the towering behemoths of D&D video games. As opposed to
Yeah.
say Birthright, the Gorgon's Alliance,
Yes, exactly.
which is a D&D game I remember from back in the day, and oof.
That's one of the ones I'm really excited to play, honestly. It seems so weird. But I'm
It
also a
was.
big Crusader Kings fan, and from what I understand, that's the one that's really Crusader Kings like.
Yeah, combined with a first-person slasher, let's say.
Which is also something that Crusader Kings fans have been begging for. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, I guess they got that in 1997.
If only it was good.
Yeah, that's my thing because once again, I had this. It
Yeah.
wasn't good.
See, I don't need
Uh,
it to be good. I'm just here, just really excited. Like, oh, did you hear? It's a weird game. Ooh.
um, I suppose, given that since we're on the subject of Baldur's Gate,
Yeah.
and it just came out. Have you
Yeah.
been playing Baldur's Gate 3?
Oh, of course I have. Yeah, it's been phenomenal. Really, I've been really enjoying it. I think it's because I really like the Pathfinder CRPGs, and they were kind of my gold standard until Baldur's Gate 3 has come out, and it feels like such a huge step forward for the genre that it feels like we're kind of at a new generation of CRPGs just as a result of it. Like every other CRPG is going to have to like step it up to like as if it was a new console generation.
Very possible. Um, Although I'm not sure how it relates to Larian in their
Yeah,
like affinity titles.
it's true.
But certainly this is the biggest push I've seen from a D&D game in good long while. Like,
Well,
Oh,
it's a Baldur's Gate is a pretty classic subsetting.
well, it's also, I don't want to give too much credit to Dark Alliance.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everything that's been there is good. I'm just saying it has a long history.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Dark Alliance came out a couple years ago at this point,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
and
Well,
it was
Max Stream is down again.
well, this is why we're
I
broadcasting.
know. I'm just joking, or pointing it out humorously. It wouldn't be funny if we weren't already prepared for it.
Indeed. Anyway, but yeah, like Dark Alliance was kind of cashing in on that sub brand, and just the thing about it is that's from Hasbro.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
like published by Wizards of the Coast and developed by Wizards of the Coast Subsidiary for Games.
Yeah. See, what I want to see is, I mean, because I mean, you understand
Uh-oh.
at this point
Right.
that I guess I kind of wish that D&D was still making some weird games, because I do worry that Wizards of the Coast is going to learn the wrong lesson from Baldur's Gate 3. The right lesson being, of course, quality is important. People are interested in this IP if you do a good job, etc., etc. Whereas the wrong lesson to learn would be, we should only ever make this one type of game again. And due to just how many titles they have canceled recently, earlier this year they literally canceled 6 different D&D games. I fear that they're going to learn the lesson of, we should only make Baldur's Gate games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Whereas, I mean, you look at like
It's not about the fact that it's
yeah.
Baldur's Gate. It's that you got good actors and made good decisions available and stuff. And thankfully, we have now approached the point where, with enough work, you can make almost as many things possible to do in a computer game as are in an actual tabletop thing.
Yeah, it's true. And I
When was
don't
the last
just
time
want
your
to see
DM let
those
you
games.
loot the Mind Flare?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like you can have mimics that aren't piratey chests.
That's
Absolutely.
always been a thing, but there's always been the most popular one for some reason.
Because it was easy. And,
I guess it's number one thing that your players are going to want to touch until it becomes super obvious that mimics are a thing.
Yeah, and sometimes DMs can kind of bait you into it. I had this one game where we all walked into this room in a dungeon, and it was like 20 different treasure chests, and immediately we were like, "We're too smart for this. Those are all mimics. We're not opening a single one of them." We move through the room. We don't touch anything. We grab the doorknob. The doorknob bites our hands. So I mean, you can like really play with genre savvy players with
and then the ceiling and the floor try to eat you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then it turns out you were in a gelatinous cube all this time.
Exactly. It was all just the cube verse.
Indeed. Now, what about Warhammer 40K? Kind of the issue on that side is, there's like a new 40K game every week.
Yeah, and I think they're comparable IPs, and I got some flack recently for taking the stance that D&D needs to be borrowing that approach a little bit more, because like Warhammer 40,000 just releases so many goddamn games, and so many of them are not that good. But
well, it's those are actually part of the same thing. It's that they're they have been historically very willing to license out the franchise to people who want to make things.
Absolutely. And the downside is there's a lot of low quality games, but the upside is you get some of those amazing, weird, off the wall games that D&D would never get because they're so stingy with the license. If D&D or if Wizards of the Coast owned the license to Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000, we would never have games like Vermintide or Bolt Gun or Total Warhammer and all these things that are just kind of weird adaptations. Because I mean, who's gonna look at Warhammer and be like, yes, let's turn Warhammer Fantasy into Left 4 Dead, except we're gonna use rats. Like,
I mean,
and D&D absolutely should be taking this lesson and being more free with their license. There's so many different ways they can take D&D for video games rather than just the classic CRPG. And as to what those games are, I don't know. I want to see game studios experiment, and they'll find some cool stuff that no one's ever thought of.
Right. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with the simplifications that have happened over the editions.
Yeah.
Not so much the rule set, but the worlds of D&D are so much less than they were in second edition.
Yeah.
Also
They've gone more and more generic over time.
Yeah.
5th edition particularly is simplified about as far as it can get before there start being bad problems.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that they tried to get the number growth under control. I think they might have gone a little further than they needed to with that.
Yeah. Yeah. On the flip side, we get games like Warhammer Necromunda.
Yes. Yeah, we get a few downsides and stuff compared to the good, but in my opinion, it's worth it so long as the consumer knows how to be discerning with their purchases.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shame that Warhammer 40k Gorka Morka never happened.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're orcs, but what's the game format?
Vehicular combat.
That is pretty fitting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm like,
bonus points if you bring back that old spell from whatever friggin' first edition, where it summons literally one of Gork or Mork's feet to blast the enemy, and there was a specific damage size template shaped like a foot for it.
Yeah. My friend had that because it's based off of Monty Python's The Foot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also the fact that that's exactly the kind of thing that an orc would think of.
The orcs. We need more orc games, quite frankly.
Yeah, there's Shooter's Blood and Teeth, which is apparently quite good. It's like I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like a game where you play as an orc, but it's done in the style of those like 2005 Flash games, like side-scrolling ones. It looks like a lot of fun. It's very goofy, as you would need an orc game to be.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the whole gimmick about the orcs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just remember, they're the only faction in 40k that can actually win, and by many definitions they always have, because all they really want is a good fight, and in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean,
that like existentially
orcs are eternally
fucked with me
eaten.
as a teenager.
I know that's the Tyranids gimmick, but bear with me. Anyway, we should probably wrap things up at this point. Not sure if Mac's still around, but
we are not showing him currently being present. I suspect his internet is re-dead.
Well, yeah. William, I guess I'll take the time to thank you for being with us here today, and
thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and putting up with our technical problems.
That's all good.
Indeed. Always when the guest is a good sport. And I suppose I'll ask, what do you have upcoming for your YouTube channel?
Okay, so for my YouTube channel, this coming weekend, I'm going to be releasing a video about a 1996 D&D RTS that had weird knock-on effects of the lore that led later writers to have to explain this game through apartheid. And what that means, you will have to watch the video to find out.
Oh boy.
And then after that will be the part 2 of my my second, or I'll be reviewing the second Dark Sun game. Other than that, I think I'm pretty clear till October. I gotta start work on all the World of Darkness games.
Okay. Once again, it was wonderful having you on, and maybe we'll do it again in the future.
Oh, for sure. Thanks again for having me.
No problem. All right. So this is the point where we segue to entertainment news. Right. I know usually we're smoother about it, but this hasn't exactly been a smooth show. Like, anyway, so I guess we should start with Strike Watch. Any new developments there?
Evan, you're still here, right?
Oh, I think I've got one actually.
Uh-oh.
There was a D&D game played live for the Strikers.
Neat.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Hang on, Kevin's having a bit of trouble. Like, I guess we'll shift things to celebrity deaths.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
there we go. Okay. So y'all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry about that. That was strange.
Anyway,
yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, Strike Watch news.
Yeah.
Anything new there?
Yeah. Well, let's just say that the studios are the ones that are split because they had the studio CEOs or executives of them had a meeting today, and they could have come up with a way forward as to how to handle the strikes. So,
Almost like
So
they're
what we're
in
s-
over their heads.
well, some of them are. Here's the thing that's looking like it's apparent. It looks like the traditional studio people kind of want this to end, but the tech people, the streaming studios, Netflix, doesn't want this to end because if they make a deal here, it might be bad for them.
Oh, it will be bad.
'Cause they
For
might
them.
yes. That's what you're seeing here. It looks like the streaming studios don't really want the strike to end, but the traditional studios do, and some of the traditional studios, heads, Igor Zaslav, kind of don't want this to end either, but they kind of do want this to end. So basically, what it boils down to is this: the studios wanted the unions to be divided. They're the ones that are divided, and right now the unions really don't have anybody to talk to.
Oh well.
So yeah, this is fun. At this point, an entire industry is about to go down in flames, and whew,
Yeah, the streaming studios are the
our own
ones
damn
that
fault.
the streaming studios are the ones who are the most likely to have rights affecting them renegotiated.
Yes.
And then also some
Yes.
of the studios are, shall we say, more eager than others to participate in some of the AI shit that they're trying to make against the rules.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
It's also the legacy studios.
Yeah.
It's right there. They're a lot more tied to things like movie theaters and linear television and
Yes.
all of that. Like,
Yep.
Whereas, especially like Netflix, not only do they have content stored up, but
Uh-huh.
they, they're especially sweating this because they're worried about their international productions.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
They're international people wanting to negotiate rights based upon whatever the deal is, and they don't want that to happen because they want to keep them cheap.
And we'll see what happens in that regard.
Yep.
Because,
Come over the
Um,
coals, boys. Rake them over the coals.
The unions have driven the studios absolutely insane because they are not on the same page and will continue to not be on the same page.
Nope. But this is going to be longer still.
Yep. The strike rolls on. And as we head into September, where the labor month is going to be a lot more hotter.
Yes, indeed. And at any rate, we do have to shift to celebrity deaths again because we lost some notable people this past weekend.
Bob Barker and who was the other one? Oh, right. Arlene Sorkin.
Yes.
Yes.
For those who don't know, Arlene Sorkin was the original voice of Harley Quinn.
She wasn't just the original voice. She was actually truly Harley Quinn. They literally
she
modeled her off of her.
created. She was the creator of the character. I mean, like not necessarily the full concept, but she had done a character before that they based it somewhat on.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the inspiration for the character off of. She was the. She they based her off of her run on Days of Our Lives.
That's the one.
Yes, there was a. Yeah, she was part of the cast there, and they did a. There was a flashback sequence or actually not a flashback, a fantasy sequence where she was a jester, and Paul Dini basically modeled Harley Quinn off of that jester character there, and he thought of no other person who could play the character of Harley Quinn than the woman who helped inspire the character. So,
and of course, while other characters from that series are iconic, Harley Quinn is one of the relatively few significant, truly original characters not based on a previous comic character.
Yeah, and she's become pretty big lately. If you don't know,
she's been big for about 10 years.
Yeah, she's been big for 10 years, but she's been very popular the last couple of years, especially.
It's been noticed.
So, yeah, but it all started with Arlene on BTAS and 67. God bless. I mean 67. May the memories live forever.
Not for nothing, but Harley Quinn in the present day is kind of approaching Wolverine levels of oversaturation.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it's that. I think I think it was that like a couple years ago, but I think it's a lot less now. It's just the comics and TV show now. But you know, although we are getting that Joker too, so
yeah, which is going to have Harley Quinn in it,
as with Lady Gaga playing her. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Also worth mentioning is Bray Wyatt passed away unexpectedly.
That would be Wyndham Rotunda.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently what happened was he died in his sleep from a heart attack that was connected to him having long COVID.
So yeah. Yeah, and Bob Barker, if I have to hear that going over 100 joke again, I'm going to stab someone. Everyone had that same thought.
Yep, everybody had it ready. Everybody had it ready.
Like
it's kind of appropriate.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I feel like I'm the one person who's not too sad to see Bob Barker gone. Mainly because I remember the allegations levied against him back in the 90s. You know, the same allegation, the same shit that eventually got him fired. He didn't retire. You know, I think it was passed up as his retirement, but from what I understand, it was basically forced into it because, you know, he kept harassing the ladies.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, he ran a show that was a big part of a lot of people's lives for a long time.
Yep. It's just, you know, like even very leftward people seem to have missed the, you know, the kind of bad part of his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I get that. Yeah, I mean, he was a fixture of my, you know, oh, I'm sick in bed, or you know, it's the summer. There's nothing else to watch. Childhood days, much as anyone else.
But either way, he was 90. You can't argue that he didn't have a full life.
Yeah, 99 years old.
99.
Yeah.
You know, he he lived quite a long time. Like, anyway, and I suppose we should wrap up with One Piece. Because
that dropped
It's
within the
just
last
starting,
hour.
yeah.
that's dropping in 2 hours.
Is it midnight Eastern or midnight Pacific? Because I thought it was midnight Eastern. Drop.
It's always Pacific.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
dropping in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Um,
All evidence is that they're trying, or that a lot of people are trying really hard to make this adaptation not suck. We'll see if they succeed.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not-
mean, it doesn't
At
look
the very-
it doesn't look bad. At the very least, there's
Yeah.
put effort and there's a lot of love with it, and they care about the property, and that's a lot more that you could say for a lot of these things. So
Well, the thing that's been striking me is like that Netflix is actually typing this up. Like,
Yeah. Washington Post and New York Times articles, yeah.
And they had the crew do promos that were recorded months ago, apparently, to get around the strike things.
Yeah, they banked those in.
Yeah, my point is, say what you will or won't about the quality about Cowboy Bebop, but then have this.
Yeah.
You know,
They're putting a lot more into this, and it might be for very important reasons because the creator's involved. Because apparently he was at the premiere in Santa Monica and nobody knew.
well, nobody knows because nobody knows what he looks like, and that's by
Yeah,
intention.
yeah.
Oda specifically does not allow himself to be recorded or photographed
Well,
if it can be held.
well, actually, it's more like his face. He doesn't allow his face to be photograph recorded. I mean, he's done interviews. He's been recorded on interviews. It's just they don't show his face.
That's what I'm talking about. So
yeah,
he's not going to be pointed out in the crowd.
Yeah,
for that very reason. Like, so,
but yeah, I mean, at the very least, we'll see what happens. But at the very least, they're actually giving this some sort of attention and love to it, which I
would kind of like it if it was actually good for a change. I don't want to hold on to too much hope because it's a very, very big ask to make a live action adaptation of one of the most cartoony ass animes.
We'll probably have more on this next week.
Yeah.
Like, and speaking of which, we will transition to the closing segment here. Obviously this is the time when Mac would have his closing spiel about what he's been doing stream wise. All I got on that is he is not doing a Mary Skelter up late with May stream later on tonight. He's just kind of done tonight for obvious reasons.
Yep.
Anyway, so coming up next week, on September 6th, episode 18, is Aaron Jordan of Wolfsbane Comics. I know Mac doesn't like to read the promos I put up or CNP, but I can read them since I know how to do this. Anyway, writer of comics that will have you howling. Our comics are made to feel both snug and sturdy with the use of soft cover lamentation and thick 80-pound pages. Not only that, they're bigger than regular U.S. printed comics. 7 to 10 printing size. Wolfsbane Comics were created to make books that read better than they look. Storytelling, pacing, and dialogue are taken with great care and during production. You can rest assured that you won't be getting any bad books on our watch. One of the most important things to have when selling anything is the price. We want you to buy our stuff, but we care about your wallet too. So look for that next week. And until then, hopefully this gets stitched together properly. But knowing Mac and his turnaround times, it could be a while before we get the full version of this. So, till then,
Hopefully next week we'll have a smoother show.
yeah. And as Max says, stay safe.